Hi guys, thank you for visiting the Port Report. My name is Philip Port and I'm going to be speaking about the Russian economy, why I still think it will succeed in 2023. I'm going to go through how businesses are doing, how people are doing, how the economy is doing during these obviously very turmoil times. Now, my opinion has not changed. The fundamentals have not changed. People say, the Russian economy is like 12, 13 times smaller than the American economy. I don't actually believe that. I think the Russian economy is a little bit bigger than than what is publicized. $35 billion worth of agricultural exports, or the oil and gas exports to India, to China, to all these new markets. We're still exporting a little bit of oil and gas to the European Union, still a big client actually. So uranium, semi-precious metals, everything is, doing quite well. But up until recently, we had a lot less people travelling, except for mobilisation. We had a lot less imports, so you don't have all that foreign currency going out of the country to buy all these products. That's until recently. Things seem to have recovered now. There's a lot of parallel trading, a lot of goods coming through Kazakhstan, China, through third countries now. So consumers in Russia are still getting what they need. Slightly higher price on these products, obviously when you've got parallel trading and the ruble's a little bit weakened. But on the flip side, goods produced in Russia, not much inflation. Now I think it's running less than 4%. Imports a little bit higher, but your pyramid of needs, like your heating, your gas, your electricity, your rent, your housing, in a lot of instances they've remained the same or have actually come down a little bit. So the people are doing quite well. They've still got the same salaries, maybe a slightly less choice, and then if them goods are imported, slightly higher price. So the prices have gone up. So I just want to go through. Huge exporter of food, commodities. It's got huge amounts of gold. What they're doing now is they're having the stable coin backed by gold. In other words, they're not going to issue coins if they're not backed by gold. So you can be assured that you can always cash them in, for a currency that has been around thousands of years, which is gold. So you're safe, and obviously that will win Iran, Russia off, the euro, the American dollar. It will wean them off of that. It'll give them a little bit more stability. And as I've said in previous videos, what you've got to remember is everybody, at least 50% of the population, has been to university. Everybody's got a good education. Throw on top, it's got a military to protect itself. It's not going to be steamrolled over, like some countries that don't adopt Western values, Western laws. They're not going to be steamrolled over. They're going to do what is good for Russia, what is best business practice. As the government said, we would be stupid not to take advantage of our natural resources, our wealth, and that's what they're doing. So, so they're doing very well there. Because of the geopolitical situation, obviously what's happening in the Ukraine, manufacturing is booming in Russia. There's a lot more manufacturing jobs, and because of that, salaries have gone higher in the manufacturing sector, but a bit lower in, let's say, in the finance sector, in service sectors, like all these law firms that have left. These companies that have left generally paid a little bit higher than the Russian companies. So if you're in manufacturing, you're looking for a job in a factory, you're doing great. If you're in the service sector, like finance, banking, things like that, not so great. But it's recovering. Things are improving. Housing, during COVID-19, prices hit record highs in Moscow in rubles, and they've starting to come down now. There's a lot of property on the market now. People are having a wait and see attitude, see if prices will go down further. So I think, I would say about 70% of the market haven't reduced the prices, but 30% are reducing the prices that they're asking for their property. You've got 50% more property on the market. Obviously, people died because of COVID-19. People left the country permanently, unfortunately. So they put the house they put the house on the market, and often you can get a discount. So short term, if you're going to be investing, I think it's a good time to invest in property in Moscow. A little bit less in the rest of Russia. I think Moscow is the best place to invest, maybe St. Petersburg as well. Because there is some great deals. You make an offer on 20 flats, 1 or 2 will accept that offer. So make a lowball offer, and somebody will accept it because for whatever reasons. So it's a good time to invest in property at the moment. A lot of construction work going on, which is obviously very good for the economy. Maybe not the best for house prices. That could be a stumbling block. The weakness of the ruble could be a stumbling block. That the weakness. What could push prices down on the secondary market? A second-hand home, not a new one. You can be paying easily 12%, 12.5% mortgage per year. Whereas on the new markets, if you buy a new build, you're going to be paying about a mortgage rate or an interest rate of about 5.7%. So it's a lot cheaper if you buy a new property, but the prices are a little bit higher as well, and they're not decorated. Normally you've got to decorate them yourself. Sometimes it's just a shell. So housing, it's really difficult to gauge. On one hand, construction is still booming. Admittedly, projects from 2-3 years ago, and on the other side, people died of COVID, people left the country, prices are going down. When I go to the supermarkets, prices did rise a lot, and then prices dropped. I think we had a little bit of deflation for a couple of months. So I think the basics, like your eggs, your buckwheat, or we call it gretchka in Russia, your bread, I would still say it's about half the price of Europe, your milk and things like that. So your staple foods are, I would say, about, to put it in context, you can get for 50 euro cents, 60 euro cents, you can get a pint of milk. A little bit less, maybe 40 euro cents, you can get a loaf of bread. Eggs, a pound for 10 eggs, but quality eggs. If you want less quality eggs, you can get 10 eggs for about 50 pence, 60 pence. Sorry to switch from euros to pounds, but you get my point. The basics for people still haven't changed. And just to put it in perspective, why they've got such a high purchasing power parity is our bills, our expenses in Russia, the household bills for electric, water, property taxes, the whole shebang is now costing me about 7,000 rubles a month, about 80 euros a month. That's all my bills. The metro in Moscow, a yearly ticket is, about £250 a year. So I get unlimited travel. The most expensive ticket in London is about £8,500, believe it or not. I mean, it's insanity to go all zones. We don't have a zoning system in Moscow. To go all zones in Moscow, it's a lot less cheaper. So I think manufacturing booming. Obviously, the military is booming, military industry as well. A lot of people are holidaying at home, going to Sochi and Napa, going to different regions. They're not going to Europe so much now. So that's, stopping people spending hard currency overseas. Admittedly, people have left the country, which is been a bit harsh for the economy, but according to telephone records, a lot of them people have coming back. So people who went overseas, they could tell by the telephone records, And then when they started to come back, they could see, oh, they're starting to return. So a lot of people have actually returned. Moscow is a fantastic city. It's well developed. It's got everything, great infrastructure, great entertainment, I would say the best restaurants in the world, because they've got such organic fruit and vegetables and organic meats. It's not full of steroids or GM foods and things like that. They get it from Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Armenia. They import it all the time from what they don't grow, that is. You've got to remember as well, Russia used to import 20% of its food. Now it's a net exporter by 35 billion. So just to put it in perspective, what's changed over the last 10 years, why the economy will boom. So yeah, so the restaurants and the markets, when you go and get your fruits and vegetables, you can taste the vitamins, and you've got to remember that 50-60% of the world's population are not buying into the Western propaganda. They're still coming. Friendly nations are still coming to Russia now. A lot of people are thinking, wow, beautiful housing, beautiful projects, beautiful infrastructure. So I think very, very soon you're going to be, I think it's the best kept secret. I mean, I have a fantastic standard of living here. I'm so happy here. I've got a son who goes to kindergarten, and I only pay for his food 5 meals a day, his football lessons, his swimming lessons, which is extra. I volunteer for them. That costs me £20 a month, 25 euros a month. That's all I pay. And I've got a beautiful kindergarten, which is free to send him to. Housing, if I rent, is affordable. So all of this, I have a fantastic standard of living here, and people are starting to understand that, and people are starting to move here, in abundance, let's say. All that's going to be good for the economy. Russia has had in the past, and still probably does, a demographics problem. Population is getting less and less, but I think that's going to recover soon. And I think, Russia's open to immigrants. I think it's got a good policy. Because of what's happening in the world, me as an Englishman in Russia, perfectly fine. I haven't been treated any differently. It opens doors for me, windows of opportunity, being an Englishman in Russia. People always give me 2-minute conversation or a 5-minute conversation, whereas I wouldn't get maybe that respect back in England, because I'm nobody in England. But here, I'm a little bit of interest to people. So all of these things, is why I believe the Russian economy will succeed. Beautiful country, beautiful people, actually a very intelligent government, probably the best in the world at collecting their taxes. If I make a mistake, I get a £3 penalty. They just take it from my bank account, and am I going to fight for £3, 300 rubles? And I make quite a few mistakes because I'm not a native. So they're very good at collecting their taxes now. They're very good at law. Many years ago, because it was not very good for the people, for society as a whole, they just closed down all the casinos. They give them 5 years, and they said, look, you've got 5 years and then we're going to close you down. And nobody believed it, but the government said, look, this is good for society, we're not going to allow these casinos to operate, and they just closed them down in Russia. So anyway, so strong government, a consistent government. It does telegraph what it's going to do with the ruble, with interest rates, with inflation. It gives you plenty of advance warning. It said to businesses, if you want to leave Russia, okay, leave, sell up, do whatever you want. We're not going to hold you back. We're not going to penalise you for it. But you might find it difficult to get back into the Russian market later. So they're open for business. There was in Crocus City a huge event, hundreds of Chinese companies, high tech from China coming in. There's probably 30-40 planes coming in from Tehran every week, from Iran coming into Russia. So there's a lot of business coming in from Iran, a lot of business coming in from China. So yeah, I've, you know, and don't get me wrong, I've been predicting the Russian economy will do well for years, and just as it starts to do very, very well, we in the West try to weaken it. Unfortunately, it's just getting too strong, and you know, very soon they'll be focusing on China. Everybody will forget in 1-2 years what is happening now in Russia, and obviously on the neighbours next door. You know, so yeah, and then when the focus goes on to China, I think Europe and North America will be wanting to get back into bed with Russia, and I think you know, I think Russia will go into it with eyes open. They understand that, you know, many countries stab them in the front, they don't even hide it. You know, I used to say stab them in the back, but they just don't care. In the West, we just stabbed Russia in the front, and it's a atrocious what, in my opinion, we do in the name of freedom, let's say. I've said many times, I do not want freedom. I do not want freedom. I go to my restaurants, I go to my bars, I go to my park, I do anything I want. Excuse me. So if that's not freedom, I don't want it. Hope you liked the video, guys. Please subscribe. Thank you.